Well, the current head of the CIA, John Brennan, said he would disobey a direct order from the president if he were told to waterboard terror suspects. All rise, Judge Andrew Napolitano is here. All right, he essentially was posed a question: if Donald Trump's president, he gives you a direct order, we need to waterboard these guys, he would say no. I mean, legally...
Well, at the present time, waterboarding is illegal. It was also illegal when George W. Bush ordered Mr. Brennan and his people, Mr. Brennan's predecessor, actually, and his people to do it. But I think what John Brennan is talking about is either it's ineffective and doesn't work, which would contradict some other things he said in the past about it, or we have signed treaties that prohibit this behavior. And even if the president authorizes it, even if the president immunizes the people who do it, they can still be prosecuted in other countries for having done it. He may very well be thinking one or two steps ahead of Mr. Trump.
I think that's the scenario. That's the scenario. President Trump comes in and says, hey, we don't care about these treaties. They were poor treaties, just like all the other treaties we're involved in. And the only way to make America great again is to ignore them or trash them.
Okay, well, remember, under the Constitution, treaties are the supreme law of the land. Treaties are up there with the Constitution in the hierarchy of laws that have to be obeyed. And where does this waterboarding take place? In other countries. So those countries, signatories to this treaty, virtually all civilized countries are signatories to the treaty, to the Convention Against Torture, could easily arrest and prosecute Americans for doing it in their countries. That's probably what he was talking about.
This mock Boston Globe, the headline we talked about, one of their articles...
Deportations to begin?
Right. One of their articles says soldiers refuse orders to kill ISIS families. Is that along the same lines?
Well, I mean, first of all, this is satire.
This is satire.
Right, so it's absolutely protected speech.
But Donald Trump has said on the stump that he would go after the families of ISIS members.
Killing the intentional killing of non-combatants, no matter their blood or familial relationship to combatants, is a war crime, which would expose the soldiers to prosecutions in the countries in which it took place.
Again, now, I do want to point out, Donald Trump, of course, as president, will get a different CIA director. I guess the question, though, is whether or not a CIA director could say no to a direct order from the president of the United States.
The military is taught it is unlawful to obey an unlawful order, and the CIA is taught the same thing.
Right. All right, Donald Trump, another topic here on the RNC, saying that the delegate system is corrupt, it's crooked, and basically your vote doesn't count.
You know, I heard one of Trump's spokespeople on with the Bill Hemmer this morning, and he said, we were disappointed at the outcome of the election in Colorado. There was no election in Colorado. There have been no elections yet. An election is what happens in November when the government runs it, and the government...
Well, there was a caucus. So you're saying the caucus and primaries aren't the election?
Correct. They're the private procedures enacted by a private organization, the Republican Party. The leadership of the Republican Party is elected by the rank and file. They can make any rule they want. It doesn't have to be a primary. And it's certainly not an election because it's not run by the government.
So isn't this the epiphany that a lot of people are finding out right now? A, Donald Trump said it's not democracy. We live in a republic. B, the Republican Party, like the Democratic Party, they write their own rules. And if you want to participate, you can. If you don't, you don't.
In 1860, Lincoln was fourth at the beginning of the convention, and he maneuvered and manipulated his way into being the leading candidate.
But what about the
suggestion? That stuff's been happening ever since.
What about the suggestion that everybody's vote counts? This belies that.
Yes, everybody's vote counts in the November election. By the Constitution, it has to count. Not in these primaries, which are inside of private organizations, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. That's not me. That's what the Supreme Court said.
A lot of people are angry about that. Judge, thanks for giving us the legal definition here. Of course, don't forget